Um, Hello everyone, and welcome back to this session, to this series of Docker and containers. And I would like to share something that from last few classes, one or two or three classes, there was some issues regarding my Wi-Fi. So now it's been done, and almost we have done each and everything which was intended to do, and the major portion of which of Docker and containers is done. So, like, just briefly recalling everything, we have seen first of all about the need and the use of Docker containers. Then we saw about how you can use the Linux internals to create your own container technology. And later on, we then discuss everything about Docker, like how to create Docker, multi-tier architecture, volumes, networks, uh, commit command to build images, and sort of that all things, right? So there are only now few things left which was completely extra or beneficial for you and for your projects if you want to do. And I have also given few homeworks to you, like creating your own a blogging website with connecting with cloud database and etc. So today we'll see two things, one of which is Dockerfile, and second is Docker Compose. Now if we get time, then only we'll discuss more on Docker Compose. Otherwise today we'll see, just take the brief introduction and some demo about it if possible. Otherwise we'll be doing Dockerfile today, completely on Dockerfile. So what Dockerfile is, if you remember that I told you to have your own image, we have two ways. One is the commit command, which we have already used to create our own images out of the container, and another is this Docker file, right? Docker file. So today we'll be seeing about this. We have already completed it, the commit command thing, and this is the simplest way to have your image out of your container. Okay, the simplest way. This is a bit. It is not complex actually, but it is a good and a better way to handle images. Um, Dockerfile is the recommended thing to go with, because nowadays in the industry also we don't much rely on commit, we rather rely on Dockerfile more, and you will get an advantage over commit command in Dockerfile. Okay, so let's start and know about Dockerfile, and then we'll move to the practical. So what happens is, if generally first we launch a Docker container, right, using commands like docker run hyphen it, and let's say the name hyphen name of the container, and let's say os1, and then we give the image name, let's say CentOS. So what happens is, we get a shell of the container, and inside this we install everything, right? We configure everything what we need, and we set up our application, let's say a web app. So we set the HTML pages, we start the services, etc. We do in a container, and then we make image out of it. So right now we only knew about commit command. Today we'll see one more trick which is a bit better and bit advanced than commit. So what we have done, if you see chronologically, so first we launched the base container, then we installed our software. Third thing we did was configuring it, like, right, configuring, let's say if we have installed httpd. So what is the configuration which we need to do? We need to set up web pages, right? And fourth thing we did was to start the services, so that our web page is up. Start services. And finally what we did, we came out and we used commit command to make the image out of it. And one more thing which we did internally was to make the service permanent. Here somewhere we have did, if you remember, there's one file in root slash dot bash rc. In here at the end of the file there would be some lines. At the end of the file we write a command called httpd. So this is the raw command, httpd, to start your httpd services. Right, so we did this so that our web server is always up and running whenever we create and container out of this image. So just note this steps, because this will help us to build what we are looking for into the Docker file, because Docker file is actually a code. Okay, Docker file is internally a code, and using this code we can get images. So we don't have to use docker commit command every time, or every time launch follow these steps. This steps is written in a file which is named Dockerfile, and inside this Dockerfile we will write these steps according to some programming. In programming we have a fixed algorithm, right? So if you want to search anything, a linear search, so for what we do, first we input the array or input the values we have. Then this is the first thing which we do. Then second thing which we do is start a loop, right? Like for every element in the list, we then do a step here, let's say a step. If it matches, if it is equal to the target, then we move on and do that, let's say we found, or else we say here not found, right? So this is a kind of algorithm for a particular problem, right? So here what our problem is, or what our use case is, we need to get the image, and of what. So this is our problem statement or use case. So we need to have a, let's say, image of web server running in it. So what are the steps to follow? So first is to launch, second is to install, third is to configure, fourth is to set the service permanent and start it, and finally we need to make the image. So you need to have these steps written, like if in future also if you want to use Dockerfile, then I would first suggest to make a rough sketch or rough algorithm or rough steps, right, like this in your paper, and then you start writing the code in Dockerfile. We'll see what code we have to write in Dockerfile, and it's very simple and very easy to learn. Okay, it's very easy, it's not very complex like C++. Okay, so it's very easy, and it's not a programming. Okay, understand, it's a configuration tool. So let me also go out of topic a bit and explain each and everything, because our motto is not just to complete the Docker and this Docker file and wrap up the course. I want to give you each and every details regarding this, so that in future you won't be stuck in your path of exploring containers and DevOps. Broadly, broadly, if you want to see what kind of industries are there in IT. So we have some things basically. So there are companies which are developing softwares, right? So what they do, they do SaaS. So what does it mean? It means software as a service. So what they do, they provide softwares as a service to the customers or to the clients. Now the second thing would be PaaS, or we can say platform as a service, where they develop a platform which have different kind of services, and they provide it to their clients, right? Service. And nowadays there's one more very powerful thing coming up, which is called IaaS. Now if you can guess by the name, it's called sorry, it's not IaaC. uh, It's IaaC. So if you know about it, it's called infrastructure as a code. What does this means? Let's say if you want to have automation in making images, right? And this is the very 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 much useful task. If you can do in very optimized way, you can further if you go and learn Kubernetes, and after Kubernetes if you learn OpenShift, you will come to know about this. It is called build pipeline or image building, automatic automatic image building. You can just take the requirements from clients as a text, just a text file, and convert it automatically into an image. Or one more thing you can do, user client just need to tell what the client wants to develop. Let's say clients want to develop web services, so automatically this will understand what all softwares and what all versions do it need, and it will automatically create the image. And one more thing you can do is client will just provide the code, just provide code, and everything would be figured out by this program, which version to use, which software to use. Everything would be done by this program, and they will create the image. User or client just need to give the code of it. So this all things comes under IaaC, which is called infrastructure as a code. And in in next sessions, or probably if you are you be with right education, there might be courses coming on, or I guess it is already there, I don't know. So Terraform is also IaaC thing, infrastructure as a code thing. But here you manage cloud. You can do everything on cloud just by writing code and nothing on the platform, and which is very much important thing. IaaC is right now very much important. And why it is important? So let's say if there's this team A, this is team A, and this is team B. So team A is the developer team, and they have developed a particular software or a particular thing, and B is that, let's say, a testing team, right? So what happens is, now developers have an additional thing. They learned about IaaC. Let's say they learned about Dockerfile, or let's say they learned about Terraform, Dockerfile, right? So what they will do, they will just pass on this Dockerfile to the team, and the testing team, what they will also provide, they will provide that if you run a command called docker build dot hyphen t etc etc, we will see this command today. And if you have this file with you while running this command, so what will happen, you will get the image and automate, and then you just need to launch the container and you can test the application. So how easy it is for the testing team also, and for the developer team also, to handle a Docker file rather than image directly, right? Because sometimes image also becomes very huge in size because of the application. Right now we will be dealing with few lines of code, but in actual environment we have hundreds of files with thousands of lines of code. So Dockerfile then would be very beneficial, and Dockerfile also gives an advantage to test more things on the fly or add more things on the fly. So don't worry about it, we'll look into it. This was just to explain what IAC means. So if you didn't get it, let me again brief, like easily explain you in another way. So instead of launching the container and typing all the commands manually, we create a file, and the file name should be also Docker file, okay, and D should be capital. and this inside this file there's no extension, it's just Dockerfile. Inside this file you write this code. Okay, and after you have written this code you need to run a command. The command goes something like this: docker. You don't have to write dollar. I just mentioned as a shell. Okay, you have either you would have a hash or a dollar, right? Just don't focus it. The command would be docker build, 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 then dot, to mention that this docker file is in the same directory where you are running this command. So you use dot. Then you need to use -t for naming it. And what should you name? Let's say if you want to, after building this image, you want to push it in the Docker hub. If you want to push the image, then you need to give image something like this, right? The username for, in my case, the username would be Shubham Bhalala, right? As I have already explained in the image class. And then you need to mention your image name, let's say web OS, and the tag or the version if you want. So this is the command to create an image out of Dockerfile. Okay, and what would be the code? Let's now begin with it, and I'll show you how everything is happening behind the scene. Okay, so you all might have installed Docker in your system, and start practicing or have practiced each and everything taught until now, because practice is important, otherwise you won't be able to cope, like understand the concepts and try to solve a new use case. You would be able to solve use cases, basic use cases which I'm telling to you, or basic projects, just by running the commands, but that's not the case. That's why I gave you few tasks and few homeworks, and I would suggest you to do it so that you are well versed with the concepts, right? So first of all, let me go to the workspace I am working on and make a file. So let's say I am making a file docker underscore write education, and inside docker underscore write education I am creating a file. And as I told you, the extension should be there's no extension, but the file name should be Dockerfile and D capital. So once you are inside this file, now let's begin writing the code. And you don't have to remember the syntax or anything, because it's purely very easy thing, and it is actually called a declaration language. It's a declaration language, and not not the language which we generally use, like if statement. There's nothing like that. So just a minute, let me change my position, or just switch the camera off, because this might come in the code, or you won't be able to see the code. Yeah, so let's begin. So first statement, let's say if you want what would be the first step to achieve, to make the web server. First we need an image, right? First we need image, or we can say container. Inside container we can do all the things. So first step is having the container. So let's go and have our container in the code format. So in Dockerfile, from is the keyword used to tell which image you want to use. Let's say I want to use CentOS 7. So if I mention this, so they when we will run that command, they will automatically fetch this CentOS 7 image and do the rest of the things as we mention in the following code, right? Next thing which we want to do is we need to install some packages. So what are the packages? Let's say we want to install NetTools. We want to install Python also. Python, let's say 3. Then we need to install HTTPD. Then we also want to install Vim. Let's say we want to install this following things. So to install this, what we need to do, we need to use a command or a tag or a specific declaration called run. And after this, if you write anything as a command, anything, it will treat it as a command and it will run. So what should be our command? Yum install, let's say, net tools, and hyphen y, because you need to specify yes or no. So to automatically give yes, we use hyphen y. Similarly, you can do next run yum install, let's say httpd hyphen y. Then we have to install vim. Let's say we want to install vim, and that's all. This is all what you need. So this is the basic syntax, and that's all. Just save the file, and if you do ls, this is the file. Now let me see if I have how many images I have. So these are the images, right? And let me create the image out of it. Let me again first show the content of it. So first line is from. Okay, first it is from. So this from line, it specifies that what container we want to use or what image we want to use, base image. On top of this image, what we need to do, we need net tools, we need httpd, and we need vim. So these are the things which we need, and we want a container of this. So once you have done this, what you can do, you can just type the command which I just showed you, docker build dot, because the docker file is in the directory where I'm running this command. Right now I am inside this docker re, and inside this docker underscore re, I have docker file. So that's why you mentioned dot, right, in the present directory. Dot means in the working directory, in the present working directory. Then you need to mention the tag. Let's say I want to name it as web os, and the version is version 1. And if you hit enter, it would you can see it has started building the image. So first of all, they encounter this statement from and CentOS 7. So what they are looking, if you see, they are downloading it, because this CentOS 7 was not in my local system. So you can see they have downloaded CentOS 7, and after downloading it, I guess it is still downloading. Yeah, they're downloaded. Now you can see they have used this command, right, this statement, and they are installing nettools. They are installing nettools right now. Then the third step, this is the second step. Now the third step would be installing httpd. Yeah, so they are right now installing httpd. Then they will also install vim, and after installing vim, they will create the image, and the image name would be web os, and the tag would be version 1. Yeah, so now if you see that docker images, you will see this web os image and with version 1 tag. And you know what all things would be there, all the things which we mentioned. Let me now launch a container. Sorry, I need to mention the version also. Yeah, so right now I am inside the container which we built using Dockerfile. And if you go to this directory, the web directory, or let's say vim command or ifconfig command which we installed. So we have ifconfig command. Why? Because we have already installed the nettools packages. So this is how the Dockerfile work, and we can do lots of things in Dockerfile. So this was a very basic thing. Let me remove the image which we created, because it's not of great use. Okay, now let us create again, edit the file and add more things, more functionality. Yeah, so this is the thing. Now one more thing I want to tell you is, so right now they have made some advancement. That's why that thing you haven't seen. But what happens is, if you if you use run, use run keyword, so when you first use the run keyword, what it will do, so let's say first statement was from, second statement was yum install nettools -y, and next command was run yum install httpd -y. So internally what happens, first it will read this command and they will understand which image to use. Then it will come to next statement, it will see it is run, and what it will do, it will blindly run this command in this container. And after this, in here, what they will use, they will internally use commit command to make an image. Okay, there would be an image created after the, let's say this is the first step, this is the second step. So there would be an image created in here after the first run command. And then what happens, while then it will, in the third command, in the run statement, they will launch container from this image and then run this command. And let's say the fourth command is also a run, right? So in here we installed yum install what was the software, let's say vim. Okay, so again in here they will again create image using commit, and again start a container, run this command, and again commit it. The thing which I'm explaining, because it is using run internally works like this. So to avoid, this is called layering. This is called layering concept. If you know GitHub you can compare it with source code management. So it is creating the layers one by one. So that, let's say in a step, if this step fails, so there is some metadata or the data they have stored of the previous layer until which it was working fine. So they while again building it, they can audit it well, they can manage it well. So Docker is, Docker images are built in layers. They will have multiple layers, something like this created. So to avoid this, because this will consume a lot of time, you can complete all these three things in a single run command or a single run statement. So let me show you how you can do it. So what we need to do, we need to remove this. We also need to remove this, and we have to use and slash, go to next line, indent well, and slash next line, indent well. This is the syntax. Now if you go out and again do the run the Dockerfile docker build command, what you will see, in a single run statement they will install everything. Now you can see there are only 2 steps. Earlier it was 4 steps because there were 3 run statements. Now in a single run statement they will do everything, and the layers won't be created, so they will save space also, and it is an optimized way to do it. It is a right way to do it. Okay, so this will do the same thing which we have done earlier, but in a more advanced manner, in a more clean and systematic manner. Yeah, so now you will have the same image, and we don't have to use this. So let me again remove it, delete it. Let's come to the base file and follow the next steps. So we have already done this 2 things. First step is done, second step is done. Now let's move to the third step. I guess third step, we all know we need to configure the configure. Now how in configuration web services we need to edit the files, right, web pages into the desired directory. We need to keep it in where www html, right? So how you can do this? So it's very simple. You can again, either you can use run command again, or you can use copy command. So let me, you know, create it here, and you don't have to remember everything. Let me show you the reference which you can use. So if you go to this website, docker.com, or just type Dockerfile, and you will land up to this page. And here you can go to, you know, just click from, and here from here you can read everything, like what from does, what run does, or what cmd does. We will see what cmd is, what does label do. Everything is mentioned in here in very detail, one of which is copy. So let's say if you forget about copy, so you can come here, you can see the syntax, and there might be some examples also like this, similar to, you know, this one, where you can check how you can do the copy, and many other things are there. So let me again go to the terminal, and in here we will create one more file which is called index.html, and let's build a very basic website. Let's say it works. I am Shubham Bhalala. Okay. So this is the web page created in our system, right? This is my system, your host system. It is not inside the container. So now let me edit the Docker file, and inside this Docker file we will write the copy command. And what we will mention first, we need to mention the source. You can see here, this is the source, and then the destination. So what is our source? We need because we are in the same directory, I can direct mention the name, and where we need to send it, where www html, right? Inside this we need to send it. And if we let us finish all the things. This is the copy thing, third thing. Now fourth thing is making the service permanent, and started. So to do it, we need to add the .bashrc file. So we can do one more thing which I'll show you in a while. So to do it, what we can do, we can use the run command, and inside this run command, what we can do, we can use echo. What we want to echo, we need to echo httpd, and where we need to echo it, inside the root -rc. Okay, whether it should be echo or cat, I guess echo is fine, and this is because we need to append and not overwrite. So let's try if it is working or not. And the final thing which we need to again do is start the service, because this will just edit the file. So to start it, we need to use a keyword called cmd, and inside it you can use this syntax httpd. You can use this particular syntax in command, and even in run also you can do it. But if you use this square bracket, then you need to give argument after comma. Okay, so if you want to give argument, now let's say what are argument? Let's say docker is a command, then run is an argument, -it is an argument. So you want to, if you want to give argument, you can pass it here like this. But we don't need to do it in here. Yeah, actually there is also one thing which we have to do, which is called d foreground, but that's not required right now. As of now, let's don't have this, we'll only have these things. We save it, and let me clear and build the image again. And if you hit enter, let's see are there any errors or not. So yeah, so from that they have installed it, they have installed everything. Okay, so the image is created. Let me check Docker images. Yes, WebOS is here with version 1 tag. And let's create the container. So Docker run WebOS version 1. If you hit enter, so what happened actually, we just a minute, Docker ps. Okay, so there was an issue. Let me not use rm. It is top. Now why it is top? Just a minute. Okay, so I got the problem. Docker rm. Okay, so there are no containers. So the thing which I was talking about, -d foreground, we need that because after starting the service it is actually exiting because of that reason, because it is running in foreground and not background. We need to run that particular HTTPD in foreground. So let's add, like, do it. I guess the thing was -d foreground or foreground. Let me check it. If you have HTTPD running in a system, then it would be very easy to know. Okay, just a minute. What I'll do is so please wait, I'll see that command, the argument which I was talking about, and I will also show you how you can get that extent or that argument. I guess Fedora has some problems. Let me go to Ubuntu. Okay, so we have the terminal. Let us see, we have the web service in this or not. Okay, it is not HTTPD in here, it is called Apache here, I guess. Okay, so let us install the software here. Yeah, it's Apache 2. Okay. Or is there any like a long extension? Let me just check it. Okay, it's Apache 2. And let's say once we have that service, yeah, everything is fine as of now. I just want to know the um, I don't know why this should work because this is the command. Or there was some problem installing the software. It was showing something. Yeah, there's some error. Just a minute, I'll check the command online itself. It was -d foreground as far as I know. Yeah, so yes, it is. Okay, so it is hyphen, it is in continuous. No, it was not continuous. Let me do it here. Hyphen. It is D foreground or foreground, I am not sure. Yeah, in this they have mentioned. Yes, it is hyphen D and then foreground. Yeah, it's hyphen D and then foreground. Okay, now let's check. Let me remove the image. Our image was WebOS version 1. Now let's again make the image. This time this should work because of the reason. Okay, wait, it is there's one more mistake, a spelling mistake. It is httpd. What happened? Yeah, so it's httpd here. Pd. Okay, so let me run docker run hyphen dit and let's name it as web 1 WebOS version 1. Hit enter and let me check. yeah, it is running fine. And why it is running? Because of this -d foreground. So now they won't exit it after running the command. They will be continually, like they will be in an execution state. Okay, so I need to check the IP of it. So let me go inside the you know this container. So to do it, to go inside this running container, you can use docker execute it, and the name was web1. And what we need to do is bin bash. If you hit enter, you are inside it. And let's also check the the file, if it is edited successfully. Yeah, so http is inside this, in this file .bash rc. And let me check if there are the web pages are placed incorrectly. So cat where www html index.html. Yeah, the web page is also in here. We used copy command, copy parameter. And one more thing we need to check finally is the IP address. So it's 17.02. so if it works, let us check from here. 172.17.0.2. and if we hit enter, yeah, actually I was thinking of this problem. This was because of some issues with the networking, but you can get let me show you from here. I cannot, but the web server is up and running and the website is also there. I need to in Mac there is some setting which I need to do that I haven't done yet, so that you can get the web page here. Or let me once again try. Just give me a minute. Let me exit it. And if I am able to ping this, this is the problem. I am not able to connect to it. I'll check it once, the networking thing. Otherwise the web page is running fine. If you would do this same thing in your system, you will be getting your web page. Oh, okay, let me show the same example in Ubuntu. Wait. Ubuntu also has docker sudo su-root. Let me also zoom it a bit. Yeah, so docker ps. Yes, now let me create the same file here. So first statement was from. I want to use CentOS 7. Next thing I want to do is install what we need to do, yum nettools -y. Then we want to install httpd. Then we need to install vim. -y. Yeah, and then we need to make the service permanent. So for that we what we did next step was to web pages, right? We need to set web pages. So let me write the command, which is index.html to where html. Next thing we need to do is making it permanent using the bash rc file. So we'll echo this, append this into root /.bash rc. Next thing which we did was the starting the services. So it is httpd -d foreground. Okay, and let's save this. Create the index.html file. And if I do docker build -t web os version 1, okay, sorry, it is from. Yeah, so now you can see the each and every step which they are doing. They will make the final image and will give to us. What was some error? Okay, not an error. Okay, it's done. Now let me check if there are the images built successfully using Docker images. So we have a web OS as our image. Now let me set the container up. And check if it is up. Yes, now if you go to let me also get the IP. It would be 17.2 itself, but let's go inside it. It was web 1 and we want bin bash. Okay, and yeah, so let go to this web Firefox and 172.17.0.2. So you can see the website is up and running fine. And this the image of this container came from a Docker file and how we have built it. Okay, so now you got the idea how you can use Dockerfile very easily, and how how to use some of the um command like from, run, copy, cmd, and there are many more like add. And now let's say if you have a zip file or you have tar file. So if you want to extract the data of that tar file on the fly while making this while copying the content, instead of this copy you should add you must use add. Okay, if you use add here, and let's say your source is a zip file, so in the destination it would automatically extract everything. So this is the use of add command. Then there's something called entry point. And what's the difference? So yeah, and what's the difference between run and cmd? So let me also take some of the things. So what's the difference between run and cmd? So run is the command which would execute while the build time. Okay, and cmd is the thing which would run at the which would be executed at the runtime. So let's say when you are building the image, this is the docker file, and when you are building image out of it, so at that time whatsoever you have specified after run would be executed. So it is called build time. And when you create container out of the image, this is called the you can say it is called runtime. So at this time, your CMD, whatsoever you have mentioned in this, would be executed at this time. And there's one more thing called entry point. Entry point. You can make use of CMD and entry point together. They don't have much differences, but we can say there are more similarities rather than differences. But you can use both together. Now why? Because entry point. Let me show you by an example. So if you want to check anything, the history about any image, so you can use the command history, docker history, and let's say CentOS 7. So you at the at this point of time, you can see they have used CMD at the end, and CMD is running bin bash, right? And now let me also check a few more images which I'm having. uh, let's check about CentOS latest. Okay, so they also have CMD, but in many of the images you will see entry point here. So what entry point is? Uh, yeah, you can see in this example entry point. So let me quickly tell you about entry point. So many images have something called entry point. I guess HTTPD image has an entry point. Let us check. Docker pull. Because this is important. If you see everything in front of you, then only you will be able to correlate with what I'm telling you, and you can understand it completely. So let me show you that they use entry point. Okay. Okay, they also have used CMD. Okay, no problem, but let me explain you quickly. So what happens is, let's say if you have something to run by default when your container starts, okay, when your container is starting at the runtime. Let's say if you, in our case, whenever we start or whenever we create the container, let's say this is image and this is container, we want our HTTPD to be running, right, to be started and up. So to do such kind of thing, or to mention any kind of this software, we use entry point. And let's say this particular HTTP command has an argument, a supplement argument like -d or foreground. To supply it, we can use CMD. So we can use entry point and CMD together, or you can use CMD in itself, as we have already done right now. So these are just two ways. As I told you, they are more similar rather than they are different. But you can get more use case of entry point from the doc. So they have more kind of use cases or examples to use entry point and CMD together. So this is one such. Oh, where it went? This was the perfect example. Yeah. So this is top hyphen B is his argument, and CMD hyphen C is also an argument. So if you will mention entry point, you won't be able to mention anything after the default command. But if you use CMD, you can override the CMD. Okay. What I'm talking about? Let me explain you here. Let me edit or what our Docker file was. Dockerfile had CMD, right? So let me show you. If I do docker run it name web2 and web OS version 1, and if you mention anything here, let's say date. So what happened? This whole thing got overwritten. Let me check. Yeah. So what happened is this whole command, this whole thing got overwritten by this date command. So CMD gives the permission to override whatsoever here is. But what we want HTTPD to compulsorily start. and then if the user has any requirement or any argument, he can pass it. So that's why we use the combination of entry point and cmd. Now let me show you how you can use entry point in our example. So instead of using cmd, you just use entry point and just have httpd in here, or let's say not httpd, let's give an example of date command. And in the cmd you can provide the argument. In date command also you have some argument. Let me quickly check one of it. If you do date help, so let me use 20, let's use this 24-hour clock. It's %r. Okay, so we need to use plus, plus and %r. Fine. So let's build the image, which was docker build -t dot -t date and version 1. So we have built the image successful. Now what you will see, let me launch the container docker run it, and name is date1 and date version 1. So what you will see, you got the time, right? Whatsoever we mentioned plus %r, the output came and the container is deleted. Now let's say instead of this plus r, we want small r, plus small r. So we can do it right here, like plus %r, and if you would hit enter, let me change the name. And if you hit enter, you see you can on the fly override whatsoever was in the cmd. Now if you build the same image without cmd, you won't be able to do this. Let me even show you. Docker rm if I remove this cmd, you won't be able to pass the argument in here. Build, and let's say it's date version 2. And now if you create the image, create the container from this version 3, and if you want to, let's say, pass some argument, let's say plus %cap r, you won't be able. Okay, just a minute. Date 3 version 2. I guess because there's a layer present, I'm getting this thing. Okay, yeah, so you are just a minute. Yeah, its entry point is set as date, and plus r was the argument, and it was able to run it. So I guess I need to make a complete new image and try it. But this was just to demonstrate a basic difference between it's not actually difference, but it would make sense to use entry point to by default don't change the this thing. Let's say if you use cmd, as I showed you the example, if you would have used cmd and here it would be httpd. So what anybody can do, anybody can override the last statement. and instead of starting web server, they will only run date and come out. But if you use entry point, this date won't be, date won't change to cal command. So if this is the case, let's say this is the case, and instead of date I want to run cal command, I won't be able to do it, because it would compulsory run this date. But instead of entry point, if it would be cmd, the cal command would completely override this date. So this is the small difference, and the way you can use entry point and cmd together. Okay, so let me remove the or clean the environment, and let me also delete the images. Yes, so yeah, so I all the major point of Dockerfile was covered in here. So we were able to do the or achieve this Dockerfile thing. Like we made our own web OS kind of image out of a Dockerfile, and we discuss about see copy. We discuss about copy. We discuss about add. We discuss about cmd, run, about layering in run, layering concept, and entry point. We also use from. Now there are few more things, but they are not that necessary to know. So if you, as I told you, this is the reference. If you want to refer this document, you can come to this particular website and access all the material, and you can find more insight about this particular concept. And now let's move on to Docker Compose, and how how it's helpful for us and what use case it's solving. Just the brief introduction about it. Yeah, so just a minute. Yeah, Docker Compose. Now until now what we have seen, that to build an image, image, we have two things. One is the commit, and one is docker file. But let's say Dockerfile is somewhat solving a use case of IAC, but we have a more advanced thing from Dockerfile or for IAC, which is Docker Compose. Because in here also, to make an image, we need, like, first we need to make an image, and then only we can get container, right? We need to run the docker build command here. Docker build, this command we need to run, right, to make the image, and then only we can achieve the container. But using Docker Compose directly, let's say we have the code, and directly from the code we will get the container running. We are excluding the time for this image. We are directly going to the container, working out, and then closing it, like exiting it. So how we can do is, so Docker Compose is also IAC, so we have code in here also. but this is a kind of something different kind of code which is called YML or YAML, yet another markup language. So they have a particular syntax, YML syntax. If you know, it's very well. If you don't, it's very basic. It's similar to Dockerfile, but they have some, some indentation and some kind of syntax to follow. So let me show you the basic example of Docker Compose, and just check if you have Docker Compose by default. Let me check in Ubuntu. Yeah, so they don't have, but let me even check Docker. Yeah, they have Docker. Okay, they don't have, but they have given apt install Docker Compose. So let me install it. It's actually a Python tool, so even you can use pip to install, but doesn't matter if you have, if you are in Mac and you have the Docker desktop, you don't have to worry about Docker Compose. And even if you are using Red Hat and you have installed Docker, I guess you don't have to even worry about Docker Compose there. You will have by default. Otherwise, you just need to, go to the same website in here, and somewhere you will find installing Compose and follow the same steps. So this is the file, YML file which I was talking about, and the extension is .yml. And as Docker file, as in Docker file, the name should be D capital Docker file. In Docker Compose also, you need to have Docker Compose as the file name. And this is the syntax of YML. So how it goes? So it is, this is like a key value pair. This is the key and this is the value, and the separator here is colon. In some of the language you will see it is equal to, but in YML we have colon, right? And if you want to mention something inside a particular thing, like an array, you need to use this dash. Let's say if this is ports, so ports have multiple values in it, so to define these multiple values you need to use this slash or a kind of array. And what does this indentation means? Let's say in services you have all kind of different things. You can easily compare this with JSON. If you know JSON, you can uh, easily compare this YML syntax with JSON. Oh,
Okay, I found.
yeah. So how? So let me take a new thing. So what happens is we have let's say we have student as the primary key, and inside student we have multiple things. Let's say male, and inside male we have multiple things like age. Then we have let's say standard in which they are studying. Let's say roll number, and boy, like boys club. Let's say there's a club and boys club number. And we have female, and similarly female have this all attributes. So this particular arrangement of data, this is the syntax of YAML, and this dash is like a list. If you know Python, it is like a list, and student and its information is like the dictionary, this dictionary. And now if you see this syntax, it is the syntax of JSON. And in JSON we don't have dash, we have commas, and I guess we use equal to there or a colon, I'm not sure, but YML have colon. Okay, so JSON and YML like are what like somewhat similar, but not exactly, right? So let me go again to this, and see how to uh, start the things, the compose thing. So if you create this file, if you have this information in it, and if you then you need to run a command which is called docker compose up. So this will automatically start the particular container directly from this code itself. No need to have the image. So let's build a very basic docker compose. So if you even you go to get started, you will get all the requirements to build a docker compose. So let's just start by using this. Okay, so just a minute. Yeah, so what docker compose will do. Yeah, so what Docker Compose will do, it will have, let's say we need to mention the services we want to use, and inside it which image to use. So all in here we need to just specify the image name. What happened in Docker Compose, or sorry, Dockerfile. What happened in Dockerfile? We are building a code, IAC code, to have the image, but in uh, Docker Compose, what we are going to do, we are actually using this image to have a ready-made code. Like there are many more things apart from just building image to be performed automatically or as a series of things. Let's say we have HTTPD image, so we have multiple things like exposing it, or adding volume to it, or sometimes even changing the web pages of it. So this all things can be done, like either you type the command or you use this particular code file. Okay, so in this also you need image, but it should be already there. Like you can directly get a container if you have a particular image or a docker file, because directly from docker file you build image and use this image in this docker file. So now developers can give two files. One is docker file and one is docker compose. Once the testing teams build the image, and they just need to run this to have everything set up, application set up. If you didn't get it right, let me again explain it. So we have docker file first. Using Dockerfile, we build images. After we have the image, we can also provide a compose file. And once the person run this command docker compose up, he will directly have the whole setup, the whole environment ready. And inside, let's say if you have a shell inside the container, everything would be handled, exposing, adding volume, networking, everything you can mention in this docker compose file, and it would be set up. So this would gradually decrease the time for the other teams to test it, to QA team. There are so many things, a security team, everything would be very simple because they have both the files, docker file and docker compose. So they just need to run two commands in all to have the same environment, same setup as developer had. And developer might have used or given hundreds of hours into this work, and it can be just done in two simple commands and they have the same environment. So using these two things together, you can you can reduce a lot of time, and you can make your program very dynamic and great in working. So I would like to take this docker compose in a very fresh, because it won't be covered in the time we had. I need a complete lecture on docker compose because there are multiple things to explain. I will again take the YML syntax and explain each and everything from start again. So if you have any doubt, you can ask me. You can put it in the chat. I'll try to answer them. Okay, guys, then see you in the next session. Take care. Bye bye.